All right, tonight we are going to talk about the sacred and the sinister side of includer. Here we go. All right, so I want to start off by saying that this is a strength. First of all, it's in my shadow strengths. It's my number 31, so it's way down. Only 34 strengths total. It's my number 31. For Kim, it's her number 28, so not much higher. So this is not something that we get energy from. This is not a strength we use or we want to use, because if we use it, it's probably going to cause us some discomfort, quite frankly. And in addition to that, I'll be very honest with you, I haven't even coached many people that have high includer. There's been a handful, but not many. The vast majority of people that I've coached and the Kim has coached have includer definitely at least in the bottom half of their divine natural abilities. So, but we have had a few that have had it up high. So let's jump into this and let's talk about this unique strength. So let's talk about the domain first. Includer is a relationship building strength. And it's when you think about it, it's really kind of self-explanatory. You want everybody to be included. If you have high includer, you don't want anyone left out. You want to make sure everybody's welcome. Now, in the strengths, some strengths have what we call, what I like to call a counter strength, or a strength that's kind of the other side of the coin from this one. And includer is one of the greatest examples of that. And it's the other side of the coin from includer is relator. And usually, if you see one high, the other one will be low in somebody's DNA. And but there's exceptions to that rule too. Sometimes it can be that people can have one right next to the other, right in the middle, or have both of them high, or have both of them low. And but it's rare. Nonetheless, it does happen. So anyway, and when I say counter strengths, kind of the other side of the coins, I want to be careful here, because I want to make sure that you understand that strengths don't have opposites. I never say that this is the opposite strength. It could be because they're all strengths, and truly, if I said this was opposite of this strength, it would actually probably end up being a weakness, and we don't do weaknesses here, right? We do strengths here. So it could be a counter strength, and it could be, again, the other side of the coin, but it's still the same coin. And that definitely applies to includer relator. We're going to get to relator at a future date, but so right now we're going to stick with includer. So, what does includer look like? And my favorite example of includer is, imagine yourself getting on an elevator, and in a office building, apartment building, hospital, wherever. You get into an elevator, and you're the only one in the elevator, and the doors haven't closed yet, and you see somebody down the hall there. They're headed towards the elevator. The includer is going to hold that elevator door open. they're going to say, they don't want that person to have to wait. Come on, the more the merrier. Jump on in here. Yeah, there's plenty of room. Okay. Again, the relator that I talked about before, they push the other button. they're not wanting to share the elevator. So I think that's one of the best examples. But so when you think of includer, think of not wanting anyone left out. And what a beautiful concept. What a beautiful sentiment, not to have anyone left out. You want to make sure, of course, if you're hosting some kind of a gathering or something, you want to make sure everybody has a good time. You want to make sure everybody is invited. You want to make sure you get a chance to greet everyone and have an exchange with everyone. And these are all wonderful, wonderful qualities. So you may be asking yourself, how could this possibly go sinister? Well, we'll get to that. But it can. It absolutely can. One of the other things to think about in the includer relationship building strength is that includers are rather shallow strength. Okay, and I don't mean that in a bad way. There are some strengths that are deep and there are some that are shallow. And includer happens to be shallow. It's not about a deep relationship with everyone you know. It's about having some kind of a relationship with everyone you know and being able to include more people in that, because you don't have to go deep to have a relationship with them. So these are kind of like the social butterflies out there. They kind of know everybody, but maybe they don't really sit and spend a lot of time with a single one person or a single group of people. They like to kind of just be casual with their friendships and have as many interactions as they can. So nothing wrong with that. Again, I'm not placing judgment here. I'm just trying to describe the strength to you. It is a shallower strength. It's not about deep connection. It's about numbers as opposed to the depth. All right. So how can this strength then go sinister? Well, being a kind of shallow strength, it could potentially go sinister. One way is that you're just missing out. Yeah, the person with high includer is including so many people into their circle that they're not focusing on the deeper connections they potentially could have with people they have more in common with. Okay, they're so busy including everybody that they neglect the qualities that could give them enrichment. And so that's one of the things that we can look at. The other thing, with a way that this strength can go really sinister, is it's kind of like the developer strength when we talked about that. Not everyone wants to be developed. We talked about that, and that's a very painful statement to say to someone with developer high. Well, the same thing goes for includer. Not necessarily everyone wants to be included. I can remember examples of going to places, conventions and things, and seeing people and they're like, oh, you got to come and do this. And as soon as they find out, we're in town, they'd say, oh, you got to come and join our group. And we're doing this over here. And you're only 10 minutes away. Come on. And I'm like, you know what? I just got into town. I want to settle. I want to spend time with my wife. I want to do this. I don't always want to be included in somebody else's grand plan. And so that's one of the things that includers, I think, sometimes can lose sight of. Not everyone wants to be included. And when they try to include someone who doesn't want to be included, and let's say that person goes along with it begrudgingly or is, brought along by, peer pressure or something else, then the includer feels more pressure to make sure that person isn't feeling excluded while they're there. And so they start spending more time and more energy on the people who don't really want to be included. And when that happens, it can get really sinister, because if you're in a situation where, sorry about that, my phone's beeping. If you're in a situation as a high includer and you're trying to include somebody that doesn't want to be included, or several people that don't want to be included, you're opening yourself up for potential heartache. You're opening yourself up to be taken advantage of, because you're going to work hard. You're going to work overtime to include them. And again, them not wanting to be included could just, again, cause you some real heartache. The other thing is you have no filter. And I'm going to be very clear about this. All of you high includers out there, I want you to understand, not a criticism, but this is a reality. Your filter does not work very well. You don't, by including everyone, you're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of yourself emotionally and spiritually. And you're opening yourself up to let someone else in who could potentially cause you harm or even be somewhat abusive. So this is a very important thing to understand. As an includer, if you have includer really high, then odds are your filter is not working as well as it could be. And you're going to need to rely on people who do not have includer high. Maybe they're more the relator end of things, to help give you input on who you should be including and who you shouldn't, because you're going to want to include everybody. All right, so keep that in mind, and that can be very dangerous for you. I've seen this happen time and time again, where people with high includer get taken advantage of, and in worst case scenarios, they get taken advantage of in a really bad way, and they can get abused, and nobody wants that. So be careful when it comes to that. How do you protect yourself? Well, one way I mentioned is make sure, work with somebody who doesn't have includer high in a lot of social things, and have them kind of be, give you some input on some things. That's one thing you can do. The other thing is, remember your own values. Remember your personal value. Remember what your core values are. And you got to remind yourself of this. You might want to come up with a core value mantra that you say before you go into social situations, to remind yourself who you are, what you do, and how you do it, and what's important to you, what is your objective here, and how can you protect yourself. Think about these things and practice that. That is very important as you grow your circle. So please keep that in mind. That's probably some of the best advice I can give you, is always know your own worth. And that goes for not just includers, but of course it goes for all of us. But includers, I think especially, tend to lose sight of this when they're in a social situation. And because again, they're focusing about getting all those numbers. So I think this is not a complex strength to cover, really. It's pretty understandable. I think Gallup did a pretty good job of identifying this one and describing it. I think the name includer is very apropos for this particular strength set. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in our next video, and I think that one coming up is probably going to be individualization. I'm doing them alphabetically. So thank you again for watching. I wish you all well, and remember, inspiration starts here.